Hey, good people, how you doing? David Taub here, co-creator of NextLevelGuitar.com. Hope all is going well, and I hope your guitar and musical journeys are going famously. Welcome to our Q&A session, the first one of this year, by the way, so we'll label this one February 2019 number 1. And I'm really excited about 2019. I'm excited about posting more lessons. I'm just excited. And thank you so much for sending in your questions. We have a ton of them to get to today. They're awesome questions, and the whole nexus for these Q&A series is that I get so many great questions through email, through YouTube, that so many people I'm sure would love to hear the answers to those, because they're probably thinking a similar question or the same thing. So these are great because it'll give everybody access to this information. So keep the questions coming. You can post a question or a comment in the YouTube box below, or you can always email us a question if you'd rather do it like that. And you could email it to me at thenextlevelguitar@yahoo.com. And for all the Q&A sessions, at the end of the session, I'll pull a random winner, and we'll send this winner this time one of these cool Next Level Guitar t-shirts, kind of baseball style, has our logos on the front and back, kind of cool. And maybe also I'll send some DVDs or some digital downloads, because I appreciate your support over the years. I just got back from the NAMM show, which is the biggest music trade show in the world. It's in Anaheim, California every year at the end of January, and I didn't post a Q&A session in January because I've been so busy with preparing for the NAMM show, and then it's just an absolute blur going there and shooting content and meeting people and interviews and interviewing people. And make sure you check out some of the content, because I've been posting tons and tons of content here on our YouTube channel, and we're covering things like the Boutique Guitar Showcase, some of the greatest guitar builders in the world, the most unique and creative instruments. We cover that. We interview a lot of those builders. Check out those. Also, we did some great interviews with legendary amp builder Mike Soldano on the future of the Soldano brand, and the missing and the lost so-called mythological Steve Ray Vaughan Soldano amp. I'm wearing my NAMM beanie that I picked up at the NAMM show. I'm excited about that too. And the other thing I'm really excited about in 2019 is I'm going to be dropping an original record with my new band. My new original band is called Mindcell, and the music that we're writing is just absolutely killer. I'm so excited about it. I think it's some of the best music I've ever written. It's in the hard rock, kind of progressive hard rock style, and I'm really excited. I'm going to have some trailers soon. I have about a third of it done in the can. I'm going back in the studio in a couple weeks and hopefully finishing it, and it's going to be available for order, and I'm really excited about it. So stay tuned for more info on the release of my record. All right, so let's get to some questions. From Marion W. or Jean. I'm not sure of your name, my apologies. You have both in the email. He asks, why don't you put printable tabs with your lessons? That would make it a lot easier to follow. Thanks, Jean. Okay, well, we do include on-screen tablature in just about all of our courses, our online lessons at Next Level Guitar, and on our YouTube channels. And we do it on screen for a couple reasons. I surveyed, I sent out surveys to all our subscribers a while back, and overwhelmingly more people wanted the tabs on screen than printable at that time, because they liked having it as far as like, there's the tab, here's the lick, and it's right there on screen, everything's right on there. However, now we are getting more and more requests to have printable tabs as well as the on-screen tabs. So that's something actually I'm looking into, and that's something that we're probably going to be doing in the future. So stay tuned for more info on that. YouTube question from SlickPete83. Why are you wearing a winter hat inside a studio? Is the heater broken? Question mark, laugh out loud. That made me laugh out loud too. I assume your name is Pete. Pete, what's up? The reason why, and I remember that particular video that you're talking about, was that I live in San Diego in Southern California near the beach. So it doesn't get super cold here. It doesn't get super hot here. It's kind of like spring weather most of the year round. However, sometimes in the mornings, especially in the winter after a night that's a little chilly, it can be a little cold. Now, my studio is in my house, and I have it on the second floor in a room that used to be over the garage, right? It was converted into a studio. So there is a heating vent in there, but it doesn't work very well. So it's very cold in the studio. I don't get a lot of heat. Now I could blast the heat and it will get warmer in here, but that makes the whole house like an oven. So generally it's a little colder in the studio. That day it was very cold. So I'm like, F this, man, I'm putting on a thick beanie. So that's why I wore the beanie in that one. Plus, I'm not a big fan of my hair. From Sam in Cleveland, Ohio. Hey Sam, what's up? Sam asks, can you shed any insight on how to set up the guitar? This subject seems to be overlooked a lot, and I wonder if my guitar is set up correctly. How should the bridge be set? How much clearance should there be between the string and the next higher fret? By the way, my guitar is a Schecter Hellraiser. Thanks a lot. Hope to get a t-shirt, Sam. All right, well, stay tuned. Maybe you will get a t-shirt, Sam. We got to pick the random winner. All right, Sam asked a great question about setting up your guitar. And whether it's an acoustic or electric, you have to keep in mind that the guitar has moving parts and therefore requires adjustments, right? To keep it in its ultimate playability form and to keep it close to your specs or the manufacturer's specs, right? And there's lots of adjustments on the guitar. Like he says, there's the distance between the bottom of the string and the frets, the action. There's the intonation adjustment. There's the truss rod. That's the rod that runs through the neck of the guitar that you use to provide relief if your neck is starting to bow this way or that way. You know, there's a lot of tension on the necks of guitars. Those strings are pulling hard, right? So it keeps the neck constantly keeps wanting to do to bow, and that's why it has that truss rod in there that you can adjust. You can adjust the saddle height depending on what kind of bridge. You know, there's so many different specs depending on the guitar, and pretty much most manufacturers put their specs online. So I'll try to find something for you and put it up here as far as the specifications for your Hellraiser guitar, Sam. But the biggest thing is, you know, getting your guitar, if your guitar is starting to buzz a little bit over time, or maybe it's not playing as well as you like, or maybe it's not staying in tune as well, it might be time for a pro setup. And you could either do it yourself, or you can take it to an authorized repair center. You could take it to a guitar repair shop or a retail shop that does repair, someplace good where they have good techs that will do a pro setup, which includes going over all the adjustments, looking over the guitar, fixing any issues, putting on a new set of strings, and getting it to play best as it can, right? So you could do that. They cost anywhere between $40 and $70. But another thing you could do is you could learn how to do those adjustments yourself. And you may ask, well, I don't know how to do that. How am I going to learn to do that? I can help with that because I have a DVD, and also I have most of my courses, by the way, have been converted to digital download, and all my newer stuff is digital download, so I have both in most cases. But I do have a whole course, an hour's worth of lessons on setting up, adjusting, maintaining, and cleaning your electric guitar, and I have one for the acoustic guitar too. And I'll put links to both of those down in the YouTube description box where we go over how to do all the adjustments with just some simple tools to get your guitar playing its best, and it'll save you a lot of money over time. So it's well worth it. But Sam, because I appreciate you sending in your question, I'm going to send you the DVD on how to do that on us, because I appreciate you sending in your question. So look, stay tuned. I'll send you an email to get your address, and we'll send you one. Everyone else, if you want to learn how to do it for yourself, click on those links below. Another email question from Owen. Owen asks, hi David, are different strings recommended for electric guitar for different styles of music? Metal, rock, jazz, country blues, rhythm and blues, etc. Or is the size preference determined by the individual player? Thanks, keep the music playing, Owen. All right, Owen. Well, basically you're asking about string gauge. And string gauge, there's a couple things you want to remember. Remember with your guitar, no matter what kind of guitar it is, acoustic, electric, anything that touches the guitar, the way it's set up, your hands, if you're using your pick, your fingers, the string gauge, it's all going to affect the sound. It's all going to affect the tone of the instrument, your playing style especially, right? So the different string gauges are going to sound a little bit different, right? I would say there's not necessarily a standard for a certain style of music. There are preferences. You know, generally, blues players tend to like their instruments strung with a little bit higher gauge strings, maybe 10s or 11s, but lots of guys use 9s. A lot of, you know, metal players that have their action set super low, they like light gauge strings like 9s. But again, it's up to the individual preferences of the player. A lot of metal guitar, because of the drop tunings, you're going to use really thicker strings on the lower gauge strings because you don't want the string to get too flappy when you detune, right? I do that on my guitars, especially that I keep tuned to drop C. So you want to find out a couple things, and you can do this through your practice and through just trial and error. You want to find out what strings feel the best to you and what strings sound the best to you. So you want to try out different gauges, right? Remember that the thicker string gauges, remember the thicker you go, that's more tension on the neck, and also the harder it is to bend strings. You know, you put a set of 11 gauge strings on there, 12 gauge, it gets kind of tough to bend them. That's a lot of tension on thick strings, but it'll give you, could give you a little thicker sound if that's what you want. You could achieve similar thing using nines, it's just a different feel. So I suggest trying it. The issue comes in is that if you're trying string gauges, once you start jumping string gauges from 9s to 11s or something, that's going to require you to reset up your guitar. I talked about that in the last question, right? Because putting more or less tension on the neck from thicker or lighter gauges, you might have to adjust the tremolo block, you might have to adjust the truss rod, right, to put that into specifications and feel and have it playing right for that specific string gauge. I wouldn't say necessarily that there's a standard string gauge per genre of music. All depends on feel, on playability, what you like, and what sounds the best. Remember, it all comes down to the sounds. What sounds best to your ears and what feels best in your hands. Another YouTube question from Joe Rice. Joe wants to know, David, what do you mic your guitar amp to? Okay. I'm not sure if you're asking me that when I play live or when I'm in the studio recording music or when I'm in the studio recording videos, right? I'll answer all three. When I'm recording videos like this, I do a couple different things. A lot of times I'm using a tube amp and I mic it with a Shure SM57, and sometimes I'll run that right into my interface and run it into my computer and put it into Logic or something like that. A lot of times though, if I just want to keep it simple, I'll run that SM57 mic straight into the camera. I have cameras that have XLR sound inputs, which is nice because I could run the and two inputs. So I could run one line in the camera for the microphone for vocals. You know, I have a boom mic, room mic, and then one mic up isolated for the guitar, and run that in, and then I can mix right in the camera. So it's easy that way. I'm a big Apple user, Macintosh, and I like, for software, I like Logic Pro X, so I might be using that. And then when I play live, again, I'm micing my guitar amp, either the cabinet, either with a Shure SM57 or an Aud XI5, and that gets run into the PA, into the house PA, so our front of house guys can, you know, set the levels. A question from Ray B. from Seattle, Washington. Ray says, hello David, my questions. What are the best way to go from tooling around the scales to crafting interesting musical ideas? And also, do you personally write every word of the emails I receive from Next Level Guitar? Regarding the emails, no, I personally don't write every note. I do write a lot of the emails, but many of the emails are written by my business partner. I do more, you know, I try to spend more of my time lesson planning, filming, doing the lessons, interacting with students and customers, you know, editing, getting the content loaded, and my business partner handles more of the computer, the marketing, and that aspect of it. And what was the second part of that question? Oh, going from noodling around scales to crafting interesting, you know, lines and solos, right? That's a good question because, you know, obviously, you know, learning the scale is only half the battle. I always say that, you know, knowing all the scales ever known to mankind, right, is only half the battle, because you got to know how to use the scale. You got to know how to apply it. You got to know how to build licks from it. And you got to know in which musical context, over what chords, or what progressions it will work. So you have the learning the scale, then you have the application. So the application is key. And how you get to it is you have to start learning how to build your lick ideas and how to start taking these devices, you know, the string bending, the vibrato, the hammer-ons and pull-offs, and start doing interesting things with the notes that sound musical. And it takes a lot of practice, but one of the things that really helps is playing over jam tracks, right? Having that musical context is really critical. It's very different just sitting there and playing a lick at home, but then taking that lick, putting it in the proper key, and placing it in time in the proper place over a jam track. So I would say one of the things you want to do is use jam tracks to really hone your craft and refine your art. The other thing you want to do is to start taking that scale and start learning how to build licks with it. Because scales, of course, are the building blocks for our licks and melodies, right? And I have lots of lessons on the website and online on how to, I'll put a couple, especially on creating solos, in the YouTube description box. So check out those lessons and let us know if you have any questions. They'll really help you in that, taking your scales and licks and creating solos with them. Mike L. from England asks, hi David, my question is, what was your first gig like and did it all work out as planned? Thanks, Mike. Hey Mike, greetings from across the pond here in San Diego, California. Wow, And you're making me really go back in time. My first gig, let's see, going way back. It's kind of hard to remember. Those are some fuzzy years. I was a, teenager, maybe my late teens. And I remember, I think my first gig was like a backyard party. I was playing in, rock cover band. And we were doing covers of like, Rush and Van Halen and Judas Priest, stuff like that. And the first gig, I remember a couple things. First of all, I remember being incredibly nervous. In fact, it took me a while to get over my stage fright. And I think that happens to a lot of people. And my advice for that is you have to just keep doing it. You keep doing it, it just gets easier and easier and easier, and you plow through it. You make a mistake, you don't make a big deal of it. 90% of mistakes made by bands when playing live go unnoticed. Unless, there's a guitar player or a musician in the audience. But 90% of it will go unnoticed. The mistakes people really remember is sound mistakes, like issues with the PA and feedback, and those are like really bad because that's what people remember. Or of course a train wreck, like if everyone stops playing. As long as you don't stop playing, most people the mistakes will go unnoticed. And if you're playing and you're like, fuck man, I just made a mistake, and you make a big deal about it and people see, then you're alerting people to it. Just keep playing. Play like you meant to play that note, bad note, right? Just keep going, keep through it, you'll get over it. I do remember something else that happened was our singer, I don't think was feeling good that well because we stopped like halfway through the set because his voice was hurting. He had to take a break, get something to drink, and then we went back on. People liked that they had fun. Most people were probably drunk. I'm sure it wasn't all that great as far as musically, first band. But, as far as the fun factor, awesome. I always have a good time playing live. That's one of the things I really love to do almost more than anything is play live in front of people. I almost can't imagine myself like not playing live on stage with a guitar in my hand. It's hard to imagine. I play out a lot. I really enjoy that. I really enjoy that energy exchange with the audience. So first gig, go as planned. Lots of gigs, Mike, don't go as planned. There's always something that usually comes up. You just have to really have perseverance. Plan. If something can go wrong, it will. So you plan for it, right? In fact, I'll include a link below. I believe I have a video where I talk about live playing and how to make your live gigs better and stuff like that. Some tips. I'll put that link below also. So check that out. Thanks for your question. Question from Luke from Queensland, Australia. Right? Luke wants to know, hi David, would you say playing the guitar has a positive or negative effect when it comes to the ladies? Oh, and best trick for getting better at switching chords. Cheers, Luke. Thanks for the question, Luke. First off, let's tackle the switching chords. I'll put a link to a video lesson in the box below where I have like killer tips and tricks for switching chords and how to get really fast of it and some exercises. So check that out. A couple of the best tips I can give you is always have your fingers as close as possible to the fretboard and in this cluster of whatever chord shapes you're forming, right? Always have your pinky finger attached to that third finger. You never want to come apart or have your hand out here. Pretend like you can almost not even get a credit card between the strings and your fingers, right? And if you look as I'm changing chords, notice they never really come out of that cluster as I go through these, open and bar chords, right? You always want to leave your fingers on the fretboard. Use what I call shared fingers. Like if you can leave a finger down, like that third finger when going from a G, D to a G, you leave it on the fretboard, right? You don't take it off just to put it back down in the same position. I call that my cluster principle. So you basically want to keep your hand close to the fretboard, right? Wrist down, thumb not way over like this, a little bit to mute the low E string if needed, and practice chord changes 2 at a time and use the long progression exercise that I give you in that video below. So be sure and check that out. Now, on to the ladies. Does it have a positive impact? I mean, I think so. I've met a lot of women through playing guitar live. Now, is it the crazy, have I had that experience of the crazy, groupies and just the wild mayhem backstage? Me personally, no. But, I do think that there is something about being a musician that's attractive to people. And there's this kind of thing about it that attracts people. I don't know. But yeah, I think it does have a positive. Do I think that's why you should do it? No, obviously you want to do it because you love it and it brings enjoyment to you, and creating music and playing music is your passion, and that's why. And it's like, that's just kind of like a perk, right? I hope I explained that right. Here's a question from SF Kim Rush. So maybe your name is Kim, I'm not sure, but It says, can you tell us about your first year while learning how to play guitar? How did you learn? What worked? What did not? How long did it take for things to come together to the point where you could pick up the guitar and call yourself a guitar player? I don't know if it was like you're playing guitar, and then all of a sudden one day you're a guitar player. I think your guitar playing, whether you're a beginner or an intermediate, or no matter, is an evolution where you have this, you know, steps or, you know, multi-steps or levels, however you want to look at it, but it's kind of like an evolution. Now, when I first learned guitar, learning was difficult. There was no internet back then. Okay, now obviously with the internet, it gives you a lot more avenues and a lot more ways to go about and opens you to a lot more instructors, right? So the way I learned was I taught myself for a very long time. I used to, believe it or not, I'll probably age myself here, but I used to rent VHS tapes at the local music store, you know, the Rocklicks tapes and other tapes and DVDs, and then and teach myself that. I taught myself a lot through magazines and books, especially Guitar for the Practicing Musician. I don't know if anyone remembers that one. I still have all my old copies, by the way. I'll have to show you sometime, like a studio tour, and I'll show you like a lot of my old copies. I've kept them all. I still have them. And then I found a really good private instructor. And that was huge. I really saw my playing advance tremendously when I dialed in the right teacher. And it took me a few times, like I think most people, to find that chemistry, to find that person who was really serious and could take me to the level that I wanted to go. I have a video on how to find the best guitar teacher and the questions you want to ask, and I'll put links to that below also, because there's a lot of mediocrity in the teaching world and you have to really ask the right questions to find the best private teacher. So, you know, for me that time, you know, using the magazines, watching videos on DVD and on or watching videos on VHS tape, that worked for me to a certain point, but then finding private teachers really helped. The other thing is, with me, I kind of overdid it. Like, I would spend 6-8 hours in my room practicing. I used to drive my mom crazy, practicing guitar till all hours of the night, whatnot. And I don't necessarily recommend that per se, because I did miss out on a lot of other things probably, but that's okay. It turned out okay. So, you know, what the takeaway from that is it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of diligence. And if you find the proper teacher, and now even online, you find a curriculum. What really works is having a structured curriculum with attainable goals, especially if you're a beginner on the guitar. Now, I have that on my website at nextlevelguitar.com, where I take you step by step. I tell you what to practice, how to practice, you know, where you should be at in your journey, and whether it's my program or another program. But I strongly suggest you get into some kind of learning curriculum, whether it's online or with a private teacher, the right teacher, where you have a structured plan, where you're practicing the right things and it's taking you to goals, measurable goals, and you will see yourself get better and better and better. So I recommend structured plan, and I recommend, you know, obviously practicing the right things and putting that guitar in your hands every day. What really works is, even if it's only 15 or 20 minutes, you don't need hour, 2-hour long sessions. And in fact, when you're first starting, you won't be able to do that because your fingers will be so sore you won't be able to play for a couple days. If you could break that up, 15 minutes before you go to work, 15 minutes when you get home, 10 minutes before you go to bed, go through your exercises, right? It adds up. What you don't want to do is, you know, put in an hour, put the guitar down, and not pick it up for 5 or 6 days, because then when you do pick it up, you're going to revert and have to take 5 steps back. Leave your guitar out on a guitar stand. Don't put it away in the case nice under your bed, because you're not going to want to go through all that effort to get it back out. Put it in the room you're in most, on a stand. You have 5 minutes while you're waiting for your clothes to dry in the dryer. Pick it up and practice. You have 10 minutes before dinner. Pick it up. You have 5 minutes before your friends are coming over to go out. Pick that guitar up. 10 minutes after you put the kids to bed. Whatever. Pick it up. Do it. You will see results. You can do it. Time to give away our Next Level Guitar t-shirt for this episode. And the winner, random drawing, Ray B from Seattle. Was it Ray B? It was. Ray B from Seattle. I'll send you an email. Send me back your address and the t-shirts. We only have left small, medium, and large. So if one of those fits, great. If not, I'll, you know, let me know. I'll send you a DVD or something, or some downloads or whatever. We'll send you some swag. Remember, put your questions below. Let me know how we can help. Also, you could email your questions to us at thenextlevelguitar@yahoo.com. Be sure to put question for David in the subject line. right? Keep putting those guitars in your hands every day. And remember, your guitar playing is an evolution, right? Please like, share, subscribe. Subscribing to the channel is really important. That really helps us to keep the content coming, right? So you want to subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for your support. Check out our full-on video instructional website, nextlevelguitar.com. All levels of player, all genres of music. It's killer, comprehensive, fun, right? Let's not forget that. Hey, wait till next time. More good stuff coming. Take care and keep on rocking.